Aloha and welcome to the Embodied Healing Self podcast with your host, Jenmons. Each week, join me for soul-inspired, conscious conversations around embodied healing and awakening to your soul's purpose. Thank you for listening in. Hello, podcast family, and welcome back again this week to the Embodied Healing Self. So this week's topic is, as most topics are, very similar to the name of this podcast, the Embodied Healing Self, as it relates to the topic of deception or untruth or perceived truth or misalignment. Those are all words that I think of when I think of deception. I'm curious, what do you think of? Unauthentic is another word that comes to mind. And I'm going to invite you to explore with me the idea that we're all dancing with deception in some way. And some of you may be noticing a very heavy energy around deception, whether it's what you're witnessing in people in your life. Maybe relationships have altered or shifted or changed in your life, particularly in the last 18 months. You know, one of the gifts of this pandemic is that with this extra added stress, people are really becoming the truth of who they are and really unmasking to their truth. And so because of that, relationships have shifted in some way. I know I myself have experienced shift in relationships, really allowing myself to show up differently in the relationships that are meaningful to me and letting go of draining relationships that were toxic. And so this is happening for many people. And a couple of other themes that are running pretty thick in the collective consciousness right now are this idea of reactivity, reacting to something versus responding, versus pausing, raising awareness, and responding from a place of being grounded. There is this energy around reacting that is very fear-based. So I want to invite you for a moment just to consider, where in my life have I done that recently? Maybe even as a parent responding to something your child did or something at work. Maybe you felt scarcity or lack of trust in your health and well-being around the pandemic. But where in your life have you been reactive versus responsive? And what were you reacting to? What was triggering or activating your reactivity? And the one we're going to talk about today is deception and what's happening right now, because there's many beliefs that a deception is showing up across the board in many different ways. Some of you may be experiencing a lack of trust in government or structures or organizations within the government. Maybe you're feeling a lack of trust in information that you're receiving. Maybe you're feeling a lack of trust in relationships. And maybe you're a person that generally trusts everything, but there's this little energy of uncertainty. Maybe it's in relationships that you're in, that you're just noticing there's something that's out of alignment. And so all of this is an invitation to connect to your body, your experience, and ask yourself, what is true for me? When you notice this sensation of lack of trust or deception, ask yourself, where am I not fully embodied in my own life? This is a really interesting, I'm going to put a little twist on this when it comes to the word authenticity and trust. Because you may be a person who is trustworthy. Many people who are trustworthy easily trust others. And oftentimes, we notice that the people who do not trust others can be very untrustworthy because they're afraid people are going to be like them. So just pay attention to that. Pay attention to relationships with people who are afraid of everything, don't trust anybody. Because whatever ideas it is that they have around what people might be doing to them, they're already thinking of. So this is a shadow of deception and trust and how it shows up for our experiences. And then on the other hand, those of us that trust too easily, who are trustworthy and trust easily, I would be in this category. I want to invite you to acknowledge the possible hard truth that the reason you're so easily trusting in others is because maybe underneath the surface you have a deeply rooted fear of trusting in yourself. And what is the story around that? What is the story around your relationship with trust? Because what deception needs is transparency. When we don't trust something because we don't fully understand it, we feel deceived. Something is out of alignment. A person is unauthentic. What we want is transparency. We want truth. We want exposure. We want information. We need something tangible in order to trust. And there are other ways to connect with trust and transparency without external validation, by developing your connection to your body wisdom, to your own intuition, to God, to Source, to something bigger than you, and really let go of the idea that you are the center of the universe, because you are the universe. So just notice for a moment an area of your life, a relationship that's showing up. Relationship can be with your body, with your health, with your doctor, with your beliefs, with a person. And have you noticed a feeling of deception or lack of understanding that has triggered or activated a reactivity of mistrust and scarcity rather than a response? And I want to invite you to consider that you can choose to respond by leaning into how that experience is for you, by asking yourself, where am I not fully embodied in my truth? Because if we can see deception in the world, then we have that energy within us. And so even if we're a trustworthy person, maybe we're not being true to ourselves in every way. And maybe we're doing this by trusting others too much or not trusting anybody at all. So notice the extremes that we can go to, because even those extremes in that moment feel safe because they're more certain. And so deception in the collective right now is calling us to be more embodied, out of our heads, out of our minds, out of analyzing, letting go of that, and also letting go of the wounded heart, emotional energy, and dropping into the body from a place of feeling grounded and present. And showing up with radical honesty and self-responsibility. Deception shows up like blame shifting. It shows up like competition. It shows up like avoidance. Shows up like self-sabotaging. It shows up in being fake, manipulative, narcissistic, controlling, anxiety, tyranny. So just noticing the different ways that deception shows up in your life and just being curious around the stories that come up around that. What does it say if you choose to believe a certain belief? Because the thing is that we're all experiencing our own truth in that moment. Two people can be in an experience together and have very different truths. So just consider for a moment that our truth is perceived truth from our own experiences. And so this is why it's important to commit, to be devoted to clearing energetically those unhealthy programs, that subconscious reprogramming, the loss of the connection to your inner child, the loss of the connection to your body, the loss of connection to God and spirit and source. All of those things that you believe have happened have not happened. You're still the same person. The difference is how you're perceiving the experiences. I like to call it the fall from grace. The thing that's making us unhappy and feeling unwell is that we perceive that we are separate, and we never were. So deception also shows up as separation. Feeling alone, avoidance, rejection, abandonment. Those are the core wounds that show up around that cause us to feel like we can't trust others, that we are being deceived. And each individual's truth comes from their own experience, and we all have to have our own experiences to have our truth. So we are not responsible for what other people believe. It is not up to us to save them, to influence them. But what we can do is we can listen. And we can listen to them, and we can listen to our body, we can listen to our intuition, and be willing to commit to the devotional practice of being present. Not in the future, not in the fear, the anxiety, not in the past, not in regret or shame or guilt, but this moment right now. So deception needs transparency, radical honesty, radical self-responsibility, healthy communication, seeking to understand. So I just want to invite you just honor yourself for your willingness to listen to this conversation around the idea that we're all dancing with deception in some way that might be responsible for creating some scarcity around trust in some area of our life. And the question for you to ask is, where am I not fully embodied in my truth? Where am I not showing up in transparency, authentically? What relationship in my life am I not authentic to, in alignment with? Because this is what's speaking to you. This is the bridge. It doesn't really matter what the rest of the world says. You get to choose and discern your truth. So I want to invite you just to keep practicing that. Keep practicing the willingness. Create a practice, a devotion, a willingness, the courage to commit to a daily or weekly or bi-weekly, some type of practice, to just notice if you're embodied in your truth. And if you don't know what that is, then I'd invite you to be willing to discover. Be willing to discover. Start with what your core values are. Start asking your closest 5 friends and family 5 words that describe you. Notice if you're showing up in your core values to others. Create a life wheel circle of all the different areas of your life: health, finances, marriage, family, nutrition, career, spirituality, physical well-being, emotional well-being, and notice where your values fall on that life cycle map. And really take a look at, am I embodied in my truth? If I say I value this, is this where I'm putting my time and energy? Is this what I'm putting my time, energy, and attention to? The things that I value most. And everything else, be willing to say to yourself or explore the idea that you're not available for anything else. You're not available for things that are out of alignment with your values, because someone else can be. But what happens if I'm available only for the things that matter for me? You don't have to worry about all that other stuff. Let somebody else get that. We've all got different values. And I want to invite you to make choices. Enter right relation with partnerships, whether it be business or marriage or food or health, but right relation with the embodiment of your values. Be in right relation. Energetically aligned and sovereign, only to the things that matter for you. And ask yourself, is this in alignment with me? Is it the right time? Is it the right time? Is it aligned with me? Is it in divine timing? And does this have to be me, or can I seek support? So just coming full circle to how we started this conversation, I just want to acknowledge that I know many of you are experiencing scarcity, lack of trust in some way, because I've been getting messages. And you're seeking freedom. You're seeking the freedom to just want normalcy and to be able to relax and to trust into the flow of life, to trust that you're safe, to trust in others, to trust in the good of the world, to trust in the information that you're receiving, to trust in your well-being, to trust in abundance, to trust that you're held. Many of you are seeking that right now. And one of the most wonderful ways to get there is through connection. Connection with others, with like-minded people, connection to yourself, connection to God, journaling, presence, connection, support. The people that are thriving right now are the people who have given themselves permission to be supported, to connect and thrive with others. Just coming home from hosting a retreat in Nosara, Costa Rica, 26 beautiful people showed up. We gave ourselves permission to connect and to heal and to feel again. And it was just so wonderful because we're all carrying the stresses of the world right now in some way. And we're all seeking connection and freedom and joy and love. And we gave ourselves permission to do that. And it was such a big reset for most of us, if not all, just to remember what that was like. So if you are seeking connection in a thriving community of women who come together and grow and thrive and support one another through all of the things, learning the energy body, nutrition, support, abundance, shadow work, relationships to time and energy, manifesting your dream life, your core values, understanding your chakras and their blocks, understanding the importance of physical movement and embodiment, creating your self-devotion statement. Then I invite you to check out the North Star Collective. Enrollment is ongoing, and find a like-minded group, community full of connection and joy and embodiment and witnessing each other in the hard stuff too. That's what we do. I hope this finds you all having a wonderful day, finding the things that you enjoy most in life, remembering how lucky you are, and giving yourself gratitude for yourself in this moment. Aloha. Thank you for joining in. See you next week. The content of this podcast is to educate, inspire, and inform you of pathways to an embodied healing self. It is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice from your medical doctor, therapist, registered dietitian, or nutritionist for any questions you may have regarding your diagnosis or condition. Hello, friends, and thank you so much for joining me today and being a part of this community. I know there are many other podcasts that you could be tuning into, and I am deeply honored that you chose to listen in and be present with me today. I love and cherish and appreciate you, and I want to invite you to join our tribe and Facebook group under jenmons.com/connect. I would also love to gift you your guide to discovering and overcoming the self-limiting beliefs standing in the way of you living in optimal health, more energy, fulfillment, and self-confidence to create an embodied, healthy, whole you. You can find this at jenmons.com/tribe. I also have one small request to help spread the love. In order for this podcast to show up in the feed of social media platforms of other like-minded people, we need reviews. So please head on over to jenmons.com/podcast to leave a review. You will also find other inspiring episodes on that page. So I personally read these reviews weekly and would love to give you a shout out and share your kind words with our listeners. You can find me on Instagram and Facebook as Jen Mons or The Holistic Coach with the W Holistic and Jen Mons, JenMons.com. Thank you so much and have an amazing day. Aloha.